For my narrative, what I want to do is talk a little bit about some of the concepts, some of Mayer's principles that we've been learning in class that apply specifically to the presentation that I've done. Talk about some of the challenges and things of that nature. So let's go ahead and get into that. First of all, the first item that you see here is a handout that I would print off and hand to students or people that are interested in my presentation. And the reason why I would want to do that is if a student has these kind of terms in front of them, then first of all, they have something to take home. They've got something to remember the presentation and possibly create some generative work on their end later on down the line. But another thing that the pre-training does is it kind of primes the pump. It gets the student ready to facilitate learning, to interact with your presentation, and that kind of thing. In addition to this, I also did a brief 2-minute and 22-second presentation on these keywords and terms. I called it pre-training, and basically the student can rewind this over and over and over again in order to get those terms and things like that they need to know. And in dealing with this presentation, the main three things that we're doing is we're incorporating some of Dr. Richard Mayer's principles for multimedia learning. And the three principles of his that we're specifically implementing in this assignment are for managing essential information. We've talked before about reducing extraneous information, and there was a lot of good information there. But this deals specifically with managing essential information to get students to engage the material that they're trying to learn better. And pre-training is one of those. The pre-training principle basically states that students are more ready and willing to learn things if you go ahead and give them difficult words and concepts ahead of time. And so my particular presentation, it's done this in two ways. It has incorporated this handout that they would be given before the lecture, and then they've also been given this video that they can go through several times to go ahead and get acclimated to the definitions and see those difficult words in text. Now, one issue with this particular segment is that it does a lot of redundant narration as well as text. There's not a lot of graphics there, so that might help, but using keywords and terms in a video segment does seem to violate Richard Mayer's principle of redundancy. For higher level learners, for instructors, for doctoral students that this presentation is more or less geared towards, that's not that big of a deal. Those types of learners have a lot more experience. They're higher level learners. And so I don't think it would be as distracting to give text on a slide as well as narration as well. But that is something to keep in mind. It may be better on presentations of this nature just to distribute a handout rather than to do this by video. However, given the nature of the assignment and some of the requirements of it, I went ahead and made the determination to go ahead and do a video pre-training segment before starting the presentation. In addition to that, the second principle of Mayer's that we're incorporating in this presentation is the segmenting principle. And that is that Students learn better when the information is broken down into manageable chunks and that the student has the ability to replay those various sections. And so throughout this presentation, just to demonstrate this visually, you can kind of see that this first segment is about 2 minutes. The next segment is about 3 minutes, and it focuses on AI. So we have a pre-training segment. We've got a segment that talks about AI, its beginnings, and some of the information that's relevant to AI, just for those learners that may not be familiar with it. After that, I go into AI products in education and how AI is used in education currently. I talk a little bit about all kinds of different different products that are in use and things like that. This segment is about a little bit less than 11 minutes. And the next segment talks a little bit about specifically about the research paths. Uh, and so this segment's about 7 minutes. I've got a challenges and ethics segment, and that goes on about 5.5 minutes. I've got a questions and references that's about a minute long. So I tried to make the clips manageable, break them down into like 10-minute or less segments. And I tried to keep the information kind of relevant. I didn't try to combine sections in segments. One thing to note about longer lecture videos, if you have 60-minute videos, even if you have play and pause buttons, a lot of studies that Mayer did found that students were not willing to press pause. They thought that the information needed to be consumed in one fell swoop, and so they didn't go through the trouble of um, pressing pause or rewinding the video or things like that. Higher level learners, they tend not to have that issue. They're okay rewinding and fast forwarding a long video. I've done that myself sometimes. But beginning learners, they may be reticent to stop a video in order to reinforce their learning. And so segmenting things, breaking things down into those manageable chunks, helps students to digest information a little bit better. A student can very quickly watch a 1 minute video over again if they missed something that they would be less inclined to do if it were a 60-minute video. And some of that too is, if they get about 20 minutes into a video and they're kind of confused about something at the 10-minute mark, but they don't know exactly where it is, they don't want to spend the time and the trouble going back to try and find that particular spot of the video. Whereas with these smaller segments, they're more inclined to do that. So that's kind of a visual demonstration of the segmenting principle. The final principle that we're dealing with in this presentation is the modality principle. And that is actually the principle that's in use right now. And that is that showing things, showing graphics on the screen while narrating through an audio narration is typically better on a learner than having a lot of text on the screen that a user has to read, as well as absorbing audio. And that kind of gets into the redundancy principle too. But if you have the choice between displaying something by written word versus in audio format, the audio format is better according to Mayer's experiments. And so that's the idea of modality principle. That is why I have primarily used narration throughout this video, and that's also why I made the decision to do this after narration, the after narrative as a video as well. It's easier on a learner to absorb things through the audio channel, and that frees the visual channel up for graphics. And signaling text, and things like that. And so those are the three principles that are at play. The pre-training, and you've seen those segments, the segmenting of breaking things down into manageable chunks, and then the modality of primarily using audio narration in conjunction with graphics so that the user gets two distinct channels, the visual channel with graphics and the audio channel with the narration, rather than being overwhelmed by having to read a lot of text and look at graphics at the same time. And so those are the three principles that are at play in this particular presentation. Let's talk a little bit about some of the challenges that I faced. The biggest issue that I had with this is creating the segments. I have had numerous video failures where one or two segments would work fine, and then another segment would fail. Perhaps that's a function of my internet connection being slow, but that's been one of the most frustrating things about this assignment, is that I had to make several small videos, and sometimes it worked and sometimes it didn't. I've used about three different video products trying to make these videos, and so the audio may be kind of disjointed between segments, and I apologize for that. So that segmenting has been a challenge. The other thing is the platform. I chose to use Nearpod. I like how Nearpod has put this presentation together. The front end that it has used with this, however, there have been some challenges with that. First of all, the thing that I've run into most is that it has cut off the ends of my videos, and so if I were a smarter man and had the gift of hindsight, I would go back in time and record an extra second or two of time on the end of my videos so that it doesn't run into that issue in Nearpod. It seems that Nearpod wants to truncate things directly on a second mark, and so you can't do half a second and things like that. And so if some of my audio at the tail end of my video has been cut off, I apologize for that. I did the best job that I could trying to trim those videos up. I tried to work around that limitation without redoing as much of the work as I already had to redo. But, you know, dealing with it going forward, I know with Nearpod, you've got to add some extra time on the end to make sure that your videos are played in full. Another drawback of Nearpod is that it uses closed captions on everything, and so you can kind of see that. And I have not found a way, at least in the free version, to turn those off. And it may be that they're going on the information delivery theory, where, hey, if the student has captions, then they're going to be able to read as well as see, and that kind of thing. And of course, Dr. Mayer talks a little bit about how the redundancy principle is a real thing, and that bombarding a student with the audio and the text does not necessarily result in more learning. I've talked in several assignments about how that's been an aha for me, and I've actually started changing my behavior based on that. So my recommendation, if I had to improve the Nearpod experience, it would be to allow closed captions like YouTube does it with a CC button over here on the taskbar or something like that. Those are the basic challenges that I experienced, and hopefully I have done a pretty thorough job of covering the three principles that are at play here: the pre-training principle, the segmenting principle, and the modality principle. And I have really enjoyed this course and the opportunity to uh, display what I know through this assignment.